Hello, hello, and welcome to this video in which we will learn about function like behavior of macros. Sorry, I need to edit the description. Function like behavior of macros. So suppose we have two numbers and we want to find out max of that particular number. So we can always write a macro max a comma b if a greater than b question mark a colon b. This is the comma operator. I have not told you about this if I remember right. So if a greater than b, then a will be returned, and if a less than b, then b will be returned. So I create variable a and then I create a variable b, and then I call it using plus plus a and plus plus b. So what would happen is it would look like this: plus plus 5 here and plus plus 7 here and plus plus how much? Plus plus 6, because after this it will be incremented, right? Because it will be evaluated and then it will go here. So plus plus 6. So A was incremented twice, while B will be incremented only once. Why? Because B is false. Okay. Now suppose we have the other way around. Then B will increment twice and A will increment only once. So this causes inconsistency in program. That is, the behavior of max is not the same depending on the values of A and B. Its behavior depends on the particular values A and B. That is part of the story. Second part of story is the increment will be inconsistent and will be dependent on order of evaluation, and to override that you will have to use parenthesis like this. So this is pain. This is a big pain to do like this. This is the way you can enforce proper evaluation of operators. Otherwise, it will give you haywire results. This is one of the reasons why I should not use function like macros. I already told you about symbolic values, but function like macros are worse, far more worse than symbolic values. Symbolic values can still be managed by writing appropriate documentation, but function like macros, it's always painful. So my recommendation is use inline functions. I have not told you about inline functions, so in our next part we'll learn about inline functions. And inline functions was an addition in C99 specification. With earlier specification, you cannot compile a code with inline keyword. Inline is a keyword. So please wait for my next video and we'll see how to use inline function and duplicate this functionality. But then what is the positive side of macros? The positive side of macros is they are replaced, and therefore the code becomes fast. You do not have to do a lookup compared to normal functions. Same is the case with inline functions. There are certain restrictions with inline functions with code pasting. Inline functions are not pasted if it's recursive. That is one thing. Second thing is, if you use a lot of inline functions, then what will happen is your code size will grow a lot, and that may not be desirable. When I talk of code size, that means the final binary. So it's a trade-off, and also at certain times when your inline function is too complex, compiler will not expand it, so it'll behave like a normal function. But then such optimizations are best left to compiler, and it's always preferable to use inline functions in C99 rather than trying to use macros. But what do you do when you have legacy code of macros like this max? Then my recommendation would be to convert that into a function and convert that into an inline function. The functionality will remain same. I mean, you will call it like this only at the call, but then this implementation will change and things should be fine. This brings us to an end of macros, and in our next part we will study inline functions and how to do the same thing with inline functions.